pimp out your car. Then you pimped out your house. Now you're trying to pimp out the music world. But wait, I can help you with that. Patchwork Cables. They have the finest cables available and they're handmade. Don't forget to use the discount code asterisk for a 10% discount. And welcome to Saturday session. So I am playing around with hip hop, using acoustic drums and kind of minimalist amount of instruments. And this is not a style that I'm used to doing, so I'm having to kind of step back and make sure that I'm really understanding what's needed to make it work. So I kind of started out with a piano kind of sound with this one, and I'm using the Freak Show Audio Mishby to kind of downgrade the sound because I want it to sound kind of old schoolish, and Mishby is definitely good for downgrading things in a really interesting way. So I'm not distorting it, super distorting it, but there is some distortion in there. I've got a little bit of noise as well, and I got partial pony on the lows, and the mids I got some bats in there, and I've got highs, the little thunderbolts. Hey, I didn't write the program. It is what it is, right? So from there I added a pan man because I wanted to add some dynamics to it. So I'm doing a 5-step MIDI, which is panning from left to right in 5 steps. So that kind of adds some dynamics. I wanted to conserve resources, so I'm using Ableton Live's EQ8, and I'm just doing a low cutoff with this, and I did a little shaping to brighten up the highs on this one, just to give it a little more life. And from there, the other melody sound I have in there is a flute. It is using a unfiltered audio spec ops, and my tried and true patch that I really love for a lot of things that's filtered. It's a traditional Ottawa, and I've got that going halfway on the mix side. And I added again another Ableton EQ8, and I did a low cutoff on it, and I brightened it a little bit to kind of brighten it up in the mix. The other melody that I've got is a pad, and it is from Exhale, so it's a vocal pad. And it's the Silk Philharmonic, which is really smooth sounding. Very smooth sounding pad. I really love the vocal pads. They're very, very cool. Gives you a lot of real big dynamics if you're looking for dynamics. I added a Replica XT, which is a Native Instruments patch, or a Native Instruments plugin rather, sorry. It is using a patch called Vox Angelus. And I've got a Pancake 2 in there that's doing a left and right. Kind of a soft left and right, not a hard left and right. Again, it's about making it sound dynamic. And of course, I'm using Addictive Drums for my drums. And I'm using a kit called Vintage Dry, and it's very dry, very, very dry. No effects. It sounds very compressed, which is kind of cool, very old school sounding to me. And I've got a UAD 1176 in there. that's given me kind of a more of a kind of bringing up the volume a little bit without crushing it from a compression perspective. That's kind of what I'm doing with this. I want it to be like a soft kind of compression because the drums themselves sound like they're compressed. And so I've got a kick and a snare doing that. And I came up with this funky pattern that ended up, I wanted it to be offset at first. And I ended up changing it when I got over to the arrangement view because I didn't like the way that it was going. It sounded too offset. So I ended up changing the second part of the kick so that it's more in time with the track. So this is what I'm talking about. Let me just kind of play for you what I'm talking about here. So before that, I was doing kind of an offset pattern. I'll show you that. This is what I was doing. So it made the timing kind of feel kind of clunky. So I went ahead and kind of fixed that because I didn't like the way that was going. So sometimes that happens when you, especially when you pair it with other music and you really start seeing the timing, it starts feeling wrong. Even though it's not bad, it just feels wrong. I probably should use a groove template on this one, but so far I think I'm liking the way that it sounds, but I may experiment with the groove templates and use an MPC bass template, which will give it a little bit more swing, which is, I think that would work. And the hi-hats, they're just doing regular, keeping time kind of hi-hats. I'm not doing anything crazy with them. With these kinds of track sheet, it's not necessary. I've got some perks in there too. And the thing that I did have to really mess with in the mix is this bass. It is a contact bass. It's a Scarby jazz bass, and I had to really mess with it to get it to sound the way that I expect it to sound. Let me just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Let me isolate it here so I can show you what I'm talking about. So I had to kind of beef it up because naturally without any amplification, basses don't sound that heavy. They're a low stringed based instrument, but you have to do some sound tweaking to get it to sound the way that you want, and that's exactly what I ended up doing here. So let me show you this one. So it wasn't thick like I was expecting to have it. So let me show you what that sound. Without this, I added a UAD Little Voice of God plugin, which is a bass response tool. It really does bump the bass. So if you're looking to like amplify the any kind of bass sound in any way, this thing will do it. But when I added it, it really thickened up the bass like I wanted it. Because I wasn't going to use like a regular trap sub like I've been using. I thought that was kind of ridiculous on a song like this. So I had to add something that sounded like a real instrument. But then I had to tweak it the way that I was expecting it to sound in the mix though. So again, mixing this type of style is a little different for me. I'm not experienced with messing with this particular style, but I think it sounds pretty good from a sound perspective after I went back and really started tweaking the instruments. Now I've also got something on my master channel that really does get on my nerves sometimes. I'm using the Izotope Vinyl plugin. This thing is designed to muddy up and dirty up your track. Um, and I'm using a little bit of mechanical noise, which tends to be too noisy to me. So I'm going to turn that off. I like the scratch sounds because it sounds like a dirty record scratch. The dust pops, they're okay. The warp feature, depending on what you're using it for, yeah. But that white noise is, I don't like it. White noise fills up empty space. And if it's used properly, yeah, it works. But just for the hell of it, using it, it doesn't sound good to me. It kind of reminds me of that other song from the other day that had those shakers in it. And the shakers are very white noisy. They're very annoying sounding to me. And if they're not mixed right, it's like a big annoyance in the background. Even at low volumes, it just sounds horrible to me. And it was the first time I've ever used a shaker before. And I know why. Because I'm still messing with the mix on that song. And it's interesting. Okay, so for this, I'm going to I turned the mechanical noise off. See how much noise is still going in there, even after turning it off with the other items, that dust and the scratch that's consistently going in the warp feature. It's just very noisy plug-in, and it's designed to be that way. It adds an element of noise to give it an old school feel. Also, I've got the Luna. So I've got the saturation plug-in for the Studer going, and I'm going to amp that all the way up to give it just a little bit more spikiness, and that'll really do it. That is it. I'm going to show you what the song sounds like right now.
Asterix as alien beings.
Well, that is all I have for this one. I'm going to continue to work on this style and getting a little bit better with it. Again, it's about putting in the work to make it sound better. I think that's a pretty good first attempt at this particular type of style with the live instrumentation. I'll continue to work on more tracks like this. You just have to keep doing them and keep doing them until it feels right to you. And that's what everybody keeps saying about being persistent and being consistent with music. So if there's a style that you're interested in learning, you have to find some resources for the style that you like, listen to them, and then extrapolate what it is about the style that you like. Is it the drums? Is it the musical instrumentation that they're using? What is it? And then from there, then you sit down and you start coming up with your own ideas and how to build your ideas into a song. And you just got to keep doing it. You got to try different stuff, be creative, spice it up, add things that are untraditional. Untraditional for me would be adding like some of the crazy modular sounds, doing some more sound design and doing some tricky things with flutes. Those kinds of things are the kinds of things that kind of differentiate you from other people. Not necessarily doing a tight beat, but extrapolating the style and making the style your own without copying. And that's part of being original. And that's what I normally do. You can't say, other than when I've specifically sat down and said that, hey, I'm creating a tight beat, that I've got tight beats for everything. I don't really make tight beats. I make tracks that are something that I've sat down and listened to something and maybe like the drums, or sometimes I'll listen to another resource just to make sure that I'm keeping things modern. But I normally don't go down the tight beat path. Okay, so that is all I have. If you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.